Join Andrew Stack in Iraq with Utah's 142nd Military Intelligence Battalion. And anywhere they go, he'll be right there with them, bringing you their personal stories, exclusive stories about how the war affects them. For the only local news coverage of our troops in Iraq, turn to ABC4 News.
Well, for the past 2 weeks, Abrams battle tanks from the 4th ID have been test firing their main guns, zeroing them in, preparing for the push north into Iraq. Consequently, the boom from those guns and the concussion from them can be felt all across Camp Udari. About a half an hour ago, the gunfire started here, and we've seen nothing but tracers going into the air ever since that time. But there's been a combination of tracers, not just the Iraqi celebratory fire, but also guns from some of the Bradley fighting vehicles stationed out at the gate.
Andrew Stack being the only Utah broadcaster to be embedded with the troops. He was with them from day one. Andrew is now back from Iraq.
Andrew, when you left from Baghdad airport, right? And things were just beginning to heat up. What did it feel like on the streets of Baghdad?
To be honest with you, there was a lot of tension. The last night I went through a checkpoint at Biop, which is the airport there, and there was a sapper that came out of the woods and actually threw a satchel charge underneath a Humvee about 20 minutes after I passed through that checkpoint. It's really odd because you don't get the feeling that there's any danger, but then you find out later that you narrowly averted disaster.
It's really lurking behind nearly every corner, or possibly.
It definitely affected us here personally. Al-Qaeda in Iraq conducted a triple car bombing on this complex about 8 months ago now, and we've got some video here from that night to show you, but it definitely rang our bell pretty good. Take a look.
Get inside. Quickly, guys. Okay, quickly in the strong room. Come on, towards strong room, quickly. Get in the corridor and stay in the corridor.
Now, as you can see there, it was basically pandemonium. The third explosion blew all of our windows in. The ceilings were collapsing. A lot of people pretty scared at that point. Fortunately, we didn't have any injuries or deaths on our staff, but there were 17 people killed that night. It's something none of us will ever forget. And so this morning when we heard about this, you can bet a lot of us were pretty happy to see Zarqawi gone. We're now in the third day of the security crackdown, and so far, overall, it seems to be a success. As you said, 75,000 troops here on the streets. They've set up hundreds of checkpoints, searching cars for illegal weapons, and more importantly, searching for al-Qaeda fighters in some of the worst neighborhoods Baghdad has to offer. But as you said, despite all of this, there were a number of attacks this morning that we should tell you about.
They were brutally tortured before they were killed. Fox News correspondent Andrew Stack live about this in Baghdad. Andrew?
Bridget, less than 2 weeks after replacing Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, a militant website today claiming that his replacement, Abu Ayyub al-Masri, killed the soldiers with his own hands. There's a lot of violence going on, but compared with, say, the situation in Beirut a few years back, you're not finding one neighborhood firing artillery shells at another neighborhood. More, we're just hearing a lot of small arms fire, and of course the car bombings and the roadside bombings, those are continuing. But on a daily basis, perhaps there are as many as 60 people per day turning up dead, but on the same token, those numbers could be a lot higher if it was full-blown civil war. And one little-known fact about Abu Ghraib prison, in the last year there have been a number of attacks on this prison. Prior to that, not such an important target, but a lot of terrorists have been rounded up in that time, and their buddies outside the wire are trying to break them out. With me now is Colonel Bernie Flynn. Now, he's the commander of the forward operating base here. Colonel, tell us a little bit about these attacks and why they seem to be persisting.
Well, they're persistent because the insurgents need to make a message to people out there that Abu Ghraib is a high visibility target because of the past abuses that have happened here, that they want to come in here and make a statement. It's a credit to the soldiers that are based here that we've been able to keep the external forces out of here at best we can, and we're doing a good job at it.
Tell me a little bit about the last couple of attacks. I understand the one on April 2nd, you had a car bomb that came up to the gate. I saw some video footage of that some of your soldiers shot, and it seemed like pretty harrowing moments there on that morning.
Well, what happens basically is the insurgents will hit us with indirect fire, mortar fire, rocket fire. Then they'll come in with small arms fire, and then they attempt to knock down the walls through vehicle implosive devices sit inside vehicles, and all chaos breaks loose.
Today in Iraq, as Fox News correspondent Andrew Stack reports, the ingenuity of one American soldier is showing the way.
Nearly 50% of all U.S. troops killed in Iraq are killed like this. So the U.S. military transformed most of its Humvees from this to this last year. Now virtually all are fully armored, but there's still one problem: how to protect the gunner on top.
I came up with the idea from one of our soldiers actually being hit.
Chief Swanson of the 10th Mountain Division is credited with saving more lives through innovation than any other soldier in Iraq.
Saved my life. I'm here to talk about it today.
Swanson's invention is known as, what else? The Swanson Shield, a transparent barrier surrounding gunners, preventing bullets and shrapnel from hitting them.
When they took direct fire, they actually were up, and they saw the blast or the gunfire come at them, and they were protected behind the bulletproof glass.
When the Swanson Shield is assembled, it looks like it's all one piece, but in reality, it's just an ingenious piece of American engineering, using 3 old Humvee windshields that have already been shot up, but are still bulletproof. And to show us just how strong the glass still is, Swanson has a soldier fire at one of the windshields. From the other side, this is what a soldier inside the Swanson Shield sees. It's very startling, but you are still breathing.
That's what it's all about. It's about protecting my gunners up top so they can be up and do what they got to do without fear of being hit by indirect fire.
And that's not the only improvement. This Humvee sports the next generation turret gun. The Crow system removes the gunner from the roof and places him at the controls of a remotely operated 50 caliber machine gun.
It's much safer in here. You don't have to worry about a sniper.
From outside, all I can see is the barrel moving, but from inside, this is what Specialist Young sees.
In here, I can use the thermals at night and pick out anything with a heat signature.
It's a heartwarming feeling to be stopped at the PX and say, "You're Chief Swanson. Hey, I just want to thank you for what you've done with your shields, because I know you saved my life, you saved my buddy's life." And I tell you, that's what makes your whole day in this country worthwhile.
At Camp Liberty with the 10th Mountain Division, Andrew Stack, Fox News.
The U.S. military has set up new patrols and new bases along the Syrian border. They've only been there for a month, but already they seem to be having an impact. Fox News correspondent Andrew Stack reports.
Soldiers call this the Wild West of Iraq.
It looked like as we drove by, he had his hand up like he was holding a cell phone. Mobile, where's the mobile? He could be calling up buddies saying, hey, we've got coalition forces moving through the area.
This is a very important mission because there hasn't been much coalition presence out here in a while. We know that the foreign fighters and the folks working with Zarqawi are coming through this area.
Lieutenant Colonel Davis is a West Point grad who drives his men relentlessly. He wants and gets results. In their first month alone, the men of 214 Cav netted 67 suspected terrorists, many caught in the act.
Think about this as the cork in the top of the bottle north of the Euphrates River.
General Casey, America's top military commander in Iraq, says the patrols are critical for slowing the pace of violence around the rest of Iraq.
Our intelligence told us there were foreign fighters moving north of the Euphrates, and so we acted against it, and these guys have done a wonderful job here denying and disrupting foreign fighters moving from Syria down the Euphrates River Valley into Baghdad.
Yeah, I just need a couple guys, that's all.
This is where Davis and his men often find the usual suspects. Safe houses on the Syrian border. Foreign fighters pass through here, often with the help of locals. For large sections of the border, this berm is all that separates Iraq from Syria. But nobody ever really expected the berm to keep anybody out. Rather, they expected it to show them where they got in.
We saw him near one of these breaks in the border.
So, what of our guys with the cell phone? Soldiers search the vehicle. In the end, it comes down to the rules. No weapons, no ammo, no prisoners.
There certainly wasn't anything there that would cause us to detain him. My gut tells me that he was not an insurgent.
Just another dusty day in the Wild West. No one said putting the cork back in this bottle was going to be easy.
Yeah, that's it, we're going home.
On the Syrian border, Andrew Stack, Fox News. Flying under cover of darkness, with sand glinting off the rotor blades, we're heading to the end of the line.
It's pretty rough. This is the bottom of the barrel here.
Delivering a rebuilt Stryker engine to the newest combat outpost near the Syrian border. We quickly realize why the engine is needed. This place is hard on equipment. A Humvee driving through a foot of moon dust creates a wake. Sand is like shallow water splashing out of the way. It even splashes off your shoes. The truth is, this isn't sand at all. It's more like a liquid form of dust. As if this sign were necessary, the temperature is approaching 140 degrees. Part of the reason they need so much bottled water here is because there's only one camp shower and it's broken. So the only way to rinse off is this.
It's the difference between being dirty and funky, you know, and that's all you do is wash the funk off and you're right back dirty again.
You get 5 minutes of cleanness. It's great. And then the first wind comes and you're dirty again, but for that 5 minutes you feel like the best man on the planet.
And then of course there's the food. How about a cheeseburger MRE style?
Yeah, can't complain. Food's food.
And it's the same meal every day. Every day is Thanksgiving around here.
It was a goal of mine to come to Iraq, so ever since, this is one reason I joined the Army.
Time to put that new Stryker engine to the test. At Camp Rawa, near the Syrian border, Andrew Stack, Fox News.
And the Emmy goes to Stack in Iraq.